Brandy Hall disappeared on Thursday, August 17, 2006. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Brandy Hall's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. In Central Florida, a firefighter and mother goes missing.
She left by herself, and she did not appear to be in any kind of distress.
24 hours later, her truck turns up empty, submerged in a pond.
I seen a picture of Brandy's truck being pulled out of a pond, and I just started going crazy.
Did Brandy Hall have reason to flee?
I can't grasp the concept of her just up and leaving and living in Costa Rica, sipping a pina colada.
Or did someone want to hurt her?
You can't help but think it. Perfect timing. Right before his court appearance, she disappears.
As an investigation begins, the mysteries only multiply.
She was fixing to get her life back. She was fixing to get her job back. Things were looking so good.
Leaving Brandy's loved ones in an endless state of panic.
Somebody wake me up out of this horrible, horrible nightmare.
It's Thursday night, August 17th, 2006. 32-year-old Brandy Hall has just begun her shift at the volunteer fire station in Malabar, Florida. Brandy is one of only 2 female firefighters in the squad, but she fits right in and is well liked by her colleagues.
Brandy's the kind of a person that comes around once in a lifetime that's truly, genuinely sincere about helping others. If you were going to be anybody in the fire service, you'd want to be like Brandy Hall.
Brandy is something of a local hero. Her adventurous spirit shaped by the sandy swamps and palm groves of Bull Creek, where she grew up.
I think growing up in Bull Creek did good for Brandy. It's just like a little community that everybody sticks together and takes care of everybody.
Bull Creek's amazing. It's 22,000 acres of beautiful woods, and that was our playground out there. We learned how to grow up back there.
From an early age, Brandy was a strong, tough girl.
I was initiated by Brandy. The first day I met her, she threw me into the mud. Brandy's very much the tomboy who wore Wranglers and boots and camouflage jackets, and that was Brandy.
She was more like a boy. She did everything boys did. She drove the airboat. She drove the 4-wheelers and 3-wheelers, and she fed off that stuff. She loved it. She liked being better than the boys. She was a happy girl. She was always the one that had the bright ideas.
Although Brandy seemed invincible, she almost lost her life in a 3-wheel all-terrain vehicle accident when she was 11.
She happened to go up a hill, and the 3-wheeler came back onto her face. Her skull was fractured. Both her jaws were broken. A couple other cheekbone areas were broken.
She was in surgery, I think it was 10 to 12 hours, I believe, something like that. It was really traumatic.
After a month in the hospital, Brandy was released and underwent home care for another year. Despite lifelong pain and scarring, and several more surgeries as she continued to grow, Brandy rebounded.
I don't think the accident changed her. She had too much willpower. She had too much strength and want to do in her life, and you don't pick on Brandy. It don't matter whether she had a 3-wheeler accident or not. She was still gonna kick your butt if you picked on her.
But Brandy's accident did profoundly affect her in another way.
I believe it made her dedicate her life to wanting to help other people. That's why she became the firefighter and an EMT and a paramedic, because she wanted to always be there to help everyone.
Fresh out of high school, Brandy began volunteering at the Hollapaw Fire Station. It's there that she met Jeff Hall, another firefighter, and her future husband.
When we first met, she was getting in there, getting her hands dirty, and I really liked that. I mean, she was mixing it up good, just like the other guys. I'd been in the fire service for years, and you didn't see too many women like that. So that's, I think, what was the initial attraction.
In 1992, Jeff and Brandy were married, and their careers took off. Jeff was promoted to fire chief of Osceola County, and Brandy started a full-time position at the Palm Bay Fire Station.
She was an excellent firefighter, and she could go in at a moment's notice and tell you exactly what was going on by the color of the smoke, the sounds that the building makes. She saved 95% of the homes that she went on.
Despite working 24-hour shifts, Brandy and Jeff made time to start a family, first having a girl and then a boy.
Oh, she was a fantastic mother. You couldn't ask for a better mother. Being a firefighter, she worked 1 day on and 2 days off. Jeff and Brandy worked the same shift, so I would have them on their day that they worked all day and all night. She'd always call me and tell me to make sure that they were breathing, to put my hand on their stomach to make sure they're breathing. Maybe with some of the scenes that she saw, and she just wanted to make sure that they were still alive. She just loved her children and she loved her job.
By 2005, Brandy is leading a comfortable, happy life. But on July 2nd, she receives shocking news. Her husband Jeff and a friend are arrested for marijuana cultivation.
I really can't remember how it all came into play, how the ball started getting rolling. Just thought it would be fun and not really having the thought of the repercussions of such actions. It was a stupid mistake.
The grow operation was located on 13 acres of land, south of where Brandy and Jeff lived with their children. Jeff pleads guilty to the charges, but maintains that Brandy has nothing to do with it.
Brandy thought I was renting the property to somebody. I was able to hide the money because we made a great deal of money. I had my pension, Brandy had a good salary, and also I had told people that I had rented our property for a pretty decent amount of money.
But Jeff is unable to shield Brandy from the repercussions of his crime. The property is in both his and Brandy's name, so she is also legally responsible. 6 days later, the authorities come to the fire station to arrest Brandy.
I could not believe it. I saw no reason why or how they even got an arrest warrant for her. I was very surprised. They waited till she was on duty and came and basically made a public spectacle out of her. When I picked her up from jail, she was just in shambles. I mean, she was constantly crying. I mean, I was terrified for her.
Brandy's charges are dropped soon after she is released from jail. But then she receives another blow. After 10 years of service, Brandy is fired.
Brandy's record as a firefighter was immaculate. I think she got some of the highest reviews consistently every year. She never thought that it would actually go as far as terminate her. She thought everything would be dropped. The charges that had been dropped against her.
Brandy lived for the fire service, and it just tore her apart.
It was devastating. She was crying. She's like, "Mom, I can't lose my job," because she'd worked so hard, and it meant everything to her.
Not one to bow to adversity, Brandy immediately sets out to get her job back, seeking work as a volunteer in the nearby town of Malabar.
In the state of Florida, if you stay out of the fire service for a 2-year period of time, you lose your certifications. And she did not want to lose her certifications. And she asked me if I could bring her in and allow her the opportunity to be a volunteer.
Because Brandy and Jeff are also financially strapped, she wastes no time in finding paid work.
She started working for us in our construction company, just doing odd jobs, painting manholes or backflows and stuff like that. She was fixing to get her life back. She was fixing to get her job back. Everything was fixing to be settled with that. The trouble with the grow house and stuff, things were looking so good.
A year after his arrest, Jeff has a court date to be sentenced for his crime. Although there's a chance of getting off on probation, Jeff's former position as fire chief could bring the law down harder on him.
I was the chief. Now, what's this political figure? Brandy was afraid I was going to go to jail for a minimum mandatory of 3 years, if not higher.
In hopes of helping lighten the sentence, Brandy agrees to be a character witness on Jeff's behalf. she also enlists the help of her boss at the Malabar Fire Department.
I was approached by Brandy the evening before the court trial for her husband, and she asked if I would go to be a character reference at his trial, and hopefully it may soften the punishment.
On the eve of Jeff's hearing, Brandy is scheduled to stay at the station overnight. As she always does when she's working, Brandy says prayers with the children over the phone before they go to bed.
I called Brandy to say the prayer with the kids. We talked, and then I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
An hour after hanging up the phone with Brandy, Jeff receives another call.
Mom had called me and said, Jeff, do you realize that your court schedule had changed to like 8 o'clock in the morning? So I called and left a message with the lawyer, and I immediately tried to call Brandy.
But Jeff is unable to reach her. Brandy doesn't answer her phone, and her voicemail box is full.
That morning when I woke up, I talked to my attorney. He goes, no, there's nothing to worry about. We just need to be there early. Don't be there at 1 o'clock. Get there around 10 or 11 o'clock, and I'll meet you there. And then I tried to call Brandy. I never could get a hold of her. I called the fire department. They said she had already left.
Because Brandy's shift ends at 7 a.m., Jeff believes his wife is on her way home. But as he prepares the kids for school, Brandy doesn't show up.
I don't know if there's anything that could describe that. I mean, I was scared. I knew in my heart I was going to go to jail. Dropping the kids off at school, man, I was crying.
Jeff says goodbye to his children and begins the hour-long journey to the Osceola courthouse for his sentencing hearing. While driving, he continues trying to find Brandy.
I finally got a hold of TJ. He worked with Brandy at the fire station. They were good buddies. He said, Jeff, she left last night about 10:30.
Jeff is shocked. If Brandy left the station the night before, where is she now?
I mean, I was driving to court. I was worried to death I was going to be late there, not knowing what was going to go on, and it was just crazy. I was scared, and it just felt lost.
Coming up, in a tragic piece of timing, one parent goes to jail while the other remains missing.
Everything's running through my mind. What about the kids? Where's Brandy? It was terrifying.
Jeff Hall has just learned that his wife Brandy is missing. The 32-year-old volunteer firefighter was scheduled to be at the station until her shift ended at 7 a.m. But according to a colleague, Brandy left the night before.
I'm getting scared at this time. I'm freaking out. Where's she at? And got the court thing I'm going to. So it was very chaotic. Very chaotic.
For Brandy's husband, Jeff, the timing couldn't be worse. He's en route to a sentencing hearing for a marijuana cultivation charge he's pled guilty to. Despite an intense desire to begin searching for his wife, he must keep heading toward the courthouse.
I would just start driving around trying to find, I would have more time to try to look, just drive around and see where she went to. And I just couldn't do all that. I mean, I was driving to court.
Jeff arrives at the courthouse, hoping against all odds that Brandy will be there. Instead, he finds a small crowd of family and friends gathered outside, but no one knows where Brandy is.
I got to the courthouse and immediately talked to my lawyer, and he goes, Jeff, what's wrong with you? And I said, I can't find Brandy. And then, of course, Brandy's mom starts winging out. Just, where's she at, where's she at?
We were all standing there together, and he didn't know where she was at either. So we didn't know what to think.
I was frightened, I was scared to death. But then I got to thinking, well, she's so petrified of this place.
Jeff recalls an earlier episode when Brandy refused to enter the court building.
During a pre-trial hearing, she wanted to stay in the truck. Our attorney told me it's gonna last like 5 minutes, but she was so scared to go into that courthouse, she stayed in the truck. She was just terrified, totally terrified. I mean, just the whole atmosphere. I mean, it's just this whole part of our life was a very scary time. It was very traumatizing.
Jeff hopes that his wife has simply gotten cold feet. At the moment, he has no choice but to put his thoughts of Brandy aside and focus on his sentencing.
The hearing didn't last, I wouldn't think, maybe half an hour at that. Well, I lost all track of time. I was constantly thinking about Brandy not showing up. not being able to contact her, it went so fast. I mean, it was just me standing up there with my attorneys and the judge saying, you get 18 months Department of Correction, 3.5 years probation, and it's over with.
Jeff's sentence of 18 months in prison seems particularly harsh to other firefighters.
They wanted to make an example because, you know, we're in a trusted position, and that can't be tolerated. Your law enforcement and your fire and EMS are the people that have impeccable reputations, and to do this, it lost the trust of all the people. So, you know, you got to abide by the law.
For Jeff, the sentence goes in one ear and out the other. All he knows is that he'll be locked up and unable to look for Brandy.
Until I got sentenced, until I got taken back and got my fingerprints again, and, you know, it's just constantly, you know, running through my mind. What about the kids? Where's Brandy? You know, it was terrifying.
As Jeff is handcuffed and taken away, family members quickly arrange for Brandy and Jeff's children to be picked up from school. Then they turn their attention to Brandy.
We knew where Jeff was going, so then after it was over, then it was time to go find out where Brandy was at, why she wasn't there.
But the facts are few. Brandy left the fire station the night before at 10:30 p.m. Now, almost 24 hours later, no one has seen or heard from her. Brandy's mother can't help but worry about her daughter's state of mind.
Brandy told me she and Jeff weren't getting along. I believe that their relationship got bad after he got arrested, and then she got arrested, and I'm sure Brandy was angry at Jeff over all this. She has a book probably 3 or 4 inches wide of all the certificates that she's accomplished. You can't be accountable for what somebody else is doing.
Unable to sit back and wait for news any longer, Debbie decides to look for Brandy herself.
I don't know, I just went towards Palm Bay, Malabar, looking. I probably drove by Brandy and Jeff's house to see if she might be there for any reason, just looking to see if I see her truck anywhere and find out what's going on.
Debbie drives for hours, searching for any sign of Brandy. It's almost dark when her worst fears are realized.
I remember coming to a stop sign. Right before the stop sign, Cher, one of her best friends, was coming the other way. Seems like she might have got out of the car and come running to me. And she's like, they just pulled Brandy's truck up out of the pond.
Coming up, has Brandy taken her own life?
I mean, I sit there with my head on the window, just close my eyes, cried. You know, I cried like a baby.
Florida firefighter Brandy Hall never came home after ending her shift early on August 17th, 2006. Her husband Jeff had no time to look for her before making a scheduled court appearance. Now he's sitting in jail, completely isolated from any news in the search for his wife.
When I was in the holding cell, I had no contact with my family, so if something should arise, I wouldn't know if Brandy showed up or didn't show up. And I was worried sick the whole time, and this was hours and hours and hours. I was just sitting there with my head against the wall, against the window, just, you know, stomach in a knot, sick of my stomach.
Through the window of his cell, Jeff is able to see a television that the guards are watching. When the 11 o'clock news begins broadcasting, he gets the shock of his life.
I looked up and I seen a picture of Brandy's truck being pulled out of a pond, and I just started going crazy. I mean, emotionally, because it's obvious her truck. That was her pride and joy. Her truck. It's always her truck. I'm starting to freak out in my mind and saying, okay, what's going on here? Why is this, you know, and just didn't know what to think. I mean, I was like a basket case at this point in time.
Jeff can only imagine what the images mean. He must wait to learn anything more until he is finished being processed.
I went to the 23-hour lockup, and I don't even know what time that was. When you get in there, you're allowed one phone call. I was able to call my mom, and she tried to fill me in.
She tells him that earlier in the day, a man fishing in Palm Bay found a firefighter's bunker bag. The items inside, boots, pants, a jacket, and helmet, all belonged to Brandy Hall. Firefighters responding to the scene found broken branches and tire marks suggesting that a vehicle was submerged underwater. They work with police to pull the truck out and confirm that it's Brandy's.
I just got my head hung against the window, just thinking, you know, what's going on, what's happening. Just cried. You know, I cried like a baby. I mean, I sit there with my head on the window, just closed my eyes and cried.
In Palm Bay, firefighters and police officers work into the night to look for Brandy. Many of them know her personally and are deeply affected by the search.
It was very traumatic for me. I knew the family, I knew the children, and the circumstances of how we found this thing, and no one knowing anything, what could have happened, or what did happen. It put a strain on me, personally.
Once Brandy's truck is fully removed from the water, the responders brace themselves for what they will find.
When they first opened the doors, they weren't sure if Brandy Hall was inside of the truck. When they let the water out of the vehicle and looked inside, they discovered that Miss Hall was in fact not in the vehicle.
The truck is sent to the station for a thorough forensic examination. The next morning, investigators resume searching.
Cadaver dogs were used to search the area. Volunteers were used to search that area. The woods and the area around that lake were searched pretty thoroughly by numerous volunteers and other agencies.
Divers also entered the pond, probing the murky depths for personal items relating to Brandy, or the firefighter herself.
Suicide was a theory. She had some financial pressures based on her losing her job at Palm Bay Fire Department, as well as court costs for her husband, who had pled guilty to a cultivation of cannabis charge in Osceola County.
The last time that I saw Brandy, she seemed okay to me, but she seemed like she was a little stressed out. The most thing that was weighing on Brandy's mind was her bills. You know, that she just felt like she was kind of getting buried. It was like she felt like she was working and never getting ahead. We didn't talk about Jeff's sentencing hearing a lot because the kids were around that day, but she did mention that, you know, she was nervous about the outcome and what was going to happen.
To be sure that the divers haven't missed anything, police begin work draining the pond. They also start developing other theories.
From there, investigators had to talk to Brandy Hall's family and friends to try to get a timeline of where she had gone, who she had talked to, and where she should have been at the time she went missing.
Brandy's husband, Jeff, is one of the first to be approached.
It was 1 to 2 days after I got put in jail that a detective came and saw me. Basically asked me if I did anything bad to her, and I said, no, I didn't.
Jeff goes over with the detective the last contact he had with his wife.
He spoke with her around 9:30 the night before her truck was found, which would have been August 17th, when she called to say the prayers with her kids. He tried calling her at approximately 11 o'clock and was unable to reach her.
Detectives also speak to firefighters who were working with Brandy the night she disappeared.
Brandy Hall had told her coworkers that she just wasn't feeling good, and her stomach seemed upset, so she was going to go home and sleep.
Surveillance video from the fire station seems to confirm nothing out of the ordinary occurred that last night.
They looked at the video at the Malabar Volunteer Fire Department to make sure she didn't have any altercations with anybody there, as well as to see if anybody had followed her out of the parking lot.
The footage shows Brandy relaxed and at ease, speaking with her fellow firefighters in the station.
She left by herself, and she did not appear to be in any kind of distress or emotionally upset or anything. She left as anybody would leave work.
The timestamp on the surveillance cameras pinpoints Brandy's departure at 10:50 p.m. Investigators look next at Brandy's phone activity.
Cell phone records confirm that Brandy Hall called home approximately 9:30 at night, which would have been around the kids' bedtime. Cell phone records also confirmed that Jeff Hall had attempted to call Brandy Hall at approximately the time she would have been leaving the Malabar Volunteer Fire Department.
Both calls are consistent with Jeff's statement. But Jeff wasn't the last person to speak to Brandy that night.
Cell phone records also showed there was a phone call at 11:05 p.m. where there was an 11-minute conversation, which ended up being the last conversation documented that Ms. Hall had.
Coming up, could this call lead police to Brandy's whereabouts? On August 17, 2006, Brandy Hall walks out of the Malabar fire station and disappears. According to coworkers and in surveillance footage, Brandy's last hours at work don't seem out of the ordinary. But just after she leaves, Brandy places one last phone call. Police are able to trace the call to Randall Richmond, Brandy's former boss at the Palm Bay Fire Department.
Randall Richmond was a really close friend of the family to Brandy and Jeff. Firefighters are a very tight-knit group. Their families got together all the time and went camping together, and they just did all kinds of fun things together.
On Sunday, August 20th, Randall comes in for questioning and tells investigators shocking news. Brandy was planning on fleeing.
Mr. Richmond came to the police department, stated that Ms. Hall had spoke to him Thursday night, which would have been August 17th, and said that she was leaving, she was going away. She was waiting at the Sunoco gas station for money. Ms. Hall did not tell Mr. Richmond who was supposed to bring her money, only that she couldn't take it anymore. She was just going to go away and disappear.
Randall's account points the investigation in an entirely new direction. Did Brandy leave on her own accord? It's hard for those close to her to imagine.
I was hoping to God that maybe she got angry and just decided to dump the truck and walk away and get her thoughts together before she came back. But I can't grasp the concept of her just up and leaving and living in Costa Rica, sipping a pina colada and getting away from it all. I can't envision that.
I don't think Brandy left on her own accord. She had to be forced, in my sense, because there's no way she would leave her children. No matter what happened, she would not leave her children.
There's also the evidence at the pond. If Brandy fled, was sinking her truck part of an elaborate scheme to cover her tracks?
To know Brandy and know the type of person she was towards her vehicles, she wouldn't put her truck in the water. It's just impossible to think that. Somebody else is involved here. Somebody else had a helping hand in this.
Despite their doubts, detectives go ahead and check out Randall's story, but they are unable to confirm any of the details.
Nobody at the gas station remembered seeing Brandy Hall's truck there that evening, and there was no exterior video, so it was unable to be verified if she was in fact there.
Data from Brandy's cell phone carrier doesn't support the account either.
The information from the cell tower didn't show a pinpoint location, so where the signal was coming from could have been anywhere in a 3-mile radius, which would have included that Sunoco gas station, but also would have included the lake where her truck was eventually found.
As police go over this information, the results from the forensics examination of Brandy's truck come back. Detectives have found blood, and it belongs to Brandy.
The blood was in the map pocket of the driver's side door and also on the driver's side floorboard. Again, it was difficult to determine how much blood was there because of the water being mixed with it. So we couldn't tell just from looking at the blood if there was enough to say that the person would not have been able to survive with whatever injury caused that blood.
The new clue fuels speculation that Brandy staged her own murder in order to disappear.
Ms. Hall would have known how to draw her own blood based on her training as a paramedic and as an EMT. She would have been around needles and would have had opportunity to do so.
Meanwhile, police finished draining the pond where Brandy's truck was found.
They couldn't find her body, so at that point, suicide seemed the least likely.
Brandy's loved ones wonder why, in all the searches, police have not turned up Brandy's gun.
She just grew up with guns. She always had a gun in her truck at all times. Her dad was very, very protective of her. Her dad taught her to keep guns on her. That was very normal for her to have that on her.
Brandy's missing gun underlines a more important point in the case. According to her friends, if someone approached Brandy that night, it had to be someone she knew.
Brandy wouldn't allow strangers near her truck or her equipment. And if she felt threatened, she wouldn't have them come very close to her either, you know, so she was a very cautious person. If you look at it in that light, if they did assault her or attacked her, she would have had to trust them to allow them to get that close.
For detectives, the investigation has returned to square one. Who would want to hurt Brandy?
There's not a soul in the world that I know of that would want to ever hurt or harm Brandy. Everybody admired her. She was the most well-liked person I was ever associated with in my life.
But Brandy's golden reputation was much tarnished in the last year by her husband's arrest. Police begin forming a new theory. Could her husband's marijuana operation have put Brandy in danger?
I did hear that they were dealing with dangerous people. And because she was going to go in and testify on Jeff's behalf, I think they thought that she was going to release some names. And they didn't want that to happen.
The strange timing of Brandy's disappearance puts Jeff under suspicion.
You can't help but think it. Perfect timing. Right before his court appearance, she disappears. You know, did he do it because she may have spoke out about him? Who knows?
Police decide that it's time to speak to Jeff again. But the investigation hits a serious setback. Jeff is no longer talking. Coming up, will new clues lead investigators to Brandy Hall?
When they discovered the backpack, they looked inside the contents, found the day planner and the name Brandy Hall.
It's been a week since Brandy Hall's truck was found in the bottom of a pond in Palm Bay, Florida. But the 32-year-old mother of two is still missing. Investigators are beginning to suspect foul play and take a closer look at Brandy's husband, Jeff.
At the time of Miss Hall's disappearance, her husband was due to be sentenced. It was unclear whether she didn't want to testify. The theory was that there was drug dealers involved with a marijuana grow operation that killed her to silence her because Jeff was going to turn evidence against somebody.
But police are unable to talk to Jeff. He's out of jail and appealing his sentence.
Mr. Hall would not speak about the case, and his lawyers actually didn't want him to speak to us because it was still ongoing as far as the sentencing, and we were unable to clear up whether there was a bigger picture or other people involved that may have wanted to silence Miss Hall.
For police, Jeff's silence suggests he may have something to hide.
But Mr. Hall, he was considered a suspect that we had to eliminate, as was a lot of people in her circle. The fact that Mr. Hall was not able to speak directly with us caused a big question mark to be placed over his name as far as suspicion of guilt.
With no way to pursue this angle, the case begins to stall.
After the initial searches, it kind of just turned into nothing. I even hate to say it, it's like she just dropped off the face of the earth.
Time went on and nothing came of anything, and so they just sort of let it go like a cold case, I believe.
Almost a year has passed since Brandy Hall has gone missing. Family and friends find it increasingly difficult to hold on to the hope that Brandy is alive when suddenly a clue surfaces.
On June 28, 2007, a backpack was discovered in a canal in Indian River County that was found to be Miss Hall's backpack that contained her day planner and some other personal items. When they discovered the backpack, they looked inside the contents, found the day planner and the name Brandy Hall.
The canal is approximately 30 miles south of the pond where Brandy's truck was found.
It's unclear how that backpack came to be in there. It's not connected in any way via any waterway, so the backpack had to have been thrown in to that canal close to where it was discovered.
The discovery of the backpack essentially rules out the theory that Brandy fled on her own.
The backpack was a small backpack and wouldn't be consistent with somebody traveling. There was some clothing found in the backpack. It wasn't enough to support anybody for more than a change of clothes.
Loved ones are also struck by the absence of Brandy's medication, which she took to fight the pain of the ATV accident she had as a child.
Brandy went nowhere without her medication because she would have major headaches. The medicine stayed in that backpack and they were never found.
Detectives follow through with the new lead, but are disappointed by the lack of results.
After the backpack was discovered, Miami Search and Rescue came back up with side-scanning sonar to check that canal to determine if maybe her body had been dumped in there or if she was in that canal or if there was any other evidence items. It ended up being just another dead end, so to speak, in this investigation.
Again, the search for Brandy hits a standstill. But then, there's movement in the case. After 14 months of silence, Brandy's husband, Jeff, agrees to talk.
I first spoke directly with the investigators as soon as the appeals process was over with. I think there was a lot of misconception, about that or why I was doing that, but we're trying to appeal a very serious situation.
Jeff loses his appeal and begins serving an 18-month sentence for marijuana cultivation.
It was probably within a month of me being sentenced. So they came to Central Florida Reception Center where I was at and talked to me there. I mean, I know the process, being thought of as a suspect or a person of interest because, I understand, I get all that. I'm a spouse.
Palm Bay police visit Jeff several times during his incarceration. They check out his whereabouts the night that Brandy went missing and make arrangements for him to take a lie detector test as soon as he's out.
Mr. Hall took the polygraph examination, and the results were that there was no deception indicated. Every time we contact Mr. Hall, he's very open with information. He's very forthcoming and willing to work with us however he can just to get an answer of what happened to his wife. I would not characterize Mr. Hall as a suspect at all.
In speaking with Jeff, Detective Pusatir is also able to clear up the rumors that Brandy was kidnapped or killed to prevent her from speaking out in court.
There's not no drug syndicate out of Mexico like was rumored to have or some big, huge operation. I say that's nonsense. I mean, total nonsense.
It was a smaller grow operation. They were just getting started. There was no Colombian drug lords out to kill them that had come up in some of the rumors that, oh, I think she was killed by drug dealers. We were able to eliminate that as a possible motive.
For Jeff, the feeling that his crime may have colored people's perception of Brandy's disappearance weighs heavily on him.
Would things have been handled differently if I didn't go to jail? Would more people have been concerned about looking for her? And, that just sucks. It's something that I did. And I got weight on my shoulders because I went to jail, did something wrong. And that's hard to live with.
But with Jeff's cooperation, police are able to consider a new angle. They take a closer look at Randall Richmond, Brandy's former boss, with whom Jeff believes she was having an affair.
After she went missing, I found one of her cell phones and I found some text messages. The text messages, pretty much at that point in time, made me realize that her and Randall were having an affair.
But police have already looked at Randall. He was the last person to speak to Brandy on August 17th, the night she disappeared.
In December of 2007, I wrote a search warrant for Mr. Richmond's vehicle. This was based on the fact that he was the last person to communicate with her. On August 18th, his truck was seen several times not far from where her truck was discovered. His vehicle was seized and a search warrant executed on it, looking for trace evidence of blood or any hair or fibers that belonged to Miss Hall.
No evidence is found inside Randall's vehicle, and when he is called in for questioning, the exact nature of his relationship with Brandy is difficult to define.
Mr. Richmond characterized their relationship as an emotional affair, that he never crossed any boundaries.
But others close to Brandy have a different perspective.
Brandy did confide in me about having an affair. I don't think it was a planned thing. I think it kind of just happened.
Some say that for Randall's wife, the rumors were real enough to provoke a very public reaction, 7 months before Brandy went missing.
Several witnesses told investigators that they saw Anne Marie Richmond and Brandy Hall have a verbal confrontation over Brandy's relationship with Randall Richmond. It came up later in the investigation that several people, including Jeff Hall, saw threatening text messages back and forth between Brandy Hall and Anne Marie Richmond, where they were sending threats back and forth to each other.
But Palm Bay police have trouble substantiating any of this information.
Anne Marie Richmond claimed to not know anything of what was going on, and Mr. Richmond consistently claimed that he did not know what happened to Brandy Hall other than that last phone call where she said she was going to disappear.
Neither Randall nor his wife has ever been named a suspect or person of interest in the case. While rumors still circulate, Brandy's loved ones remain focused on what's most important, finding Brandy.
I just don't want people to lose sight of the kind of person that she was, because a lot of us make horrible and wrong decisions and choices in our life, but it doesn't necessarily make us a bad person. And she was a good person, and I don't believe she ever meant to hurt anybody. She was just trying to live her life and love her kids and have her family, you know? And I miss her a lot.
Years have passed since Brandy's 2006 disappearance. With no answers and no new leads, Brandy's family and friends struggle to keep on without her.
I saw Brandy every day. We were a close family, and it's so hard that she's not here. It's like somebody wake me up out of this horrible, horrible nightmare.
I was close with her. She was like a daughter. She did so much for this department, and it hurts that she's gone now. Her picture's all over this fire station. This has gone on too long. It's impacted too many people here.
When we go back in Bull Creek, it's hard on me because I think of Brandy all the time. I think she talks to me through the trees. I don't know why, but I'll find myself staring at a tree and it dances, and there's not a tree around it that's doing the same thing.
Although Brandy's husband, Jeff, is out of jail and reunited with his family, his life will never be the same. He misses his wife, and so do their children.
I mean, if they would find her alive or find her dead, I think it would be easier on the kids. Definitely, they think about it every day, I'm sure. You know, because my son even asked me, are they...
Susie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Cheryl Levitt disappeared on Sunday, June 7th, 1992. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. The three women's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to them. Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall mysteriously vanish just hours after attending the girls' high school graduation.
Now you have three females that have just basically vanished without a trace.
There's an initial shock that is overwhelming. It was just a nightmare.
I've got to start trying to find her now.
But this bizarre missing persons case fuels more rumors than answers.
If they find remains there, then we're going to have to deal with it.
I believe that the three missing women are buried close to Springfield.
I am willing to be wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
February 1992. It's a bitter winter in the Queen City of the Ozarks, Springfield, Missouri. 42-year-old hairdresser and mother of two, Cheryl Levitt, is moving into a new home with her 19-year-old daughter, Susie Streeter. They're downsizing to a more modest home on Delmar Street after Cheryl's recent divorce.
It was a small little house that had incredible potential. And I think at the time she was going to fix it up and flip it and buy a bigger house.
Cheryl is a hard-working single mom and tries to instill her work ethic in her daughter. Susie is a senior at Kickapoo High School and works at the local movie theater after school. A few months after the move, Susie begins focusing on her upcoming high school graduation. She is spending a lot of time with her friend, Stacy McCall, who she's known since childhood.
You know, it was senior week and they had a lot of activities. They were, going to the senior breakfast, that type of organization type thing.
Susie and Stacy are feeling nostalgic and want to make the most of their last days of high school together, according to Stacy's mother, Janice McCall.
They started focusing back on their childhood. They were realizing that not all of them were going to be going to college and that they would kind of split apart a little bit.
Janelle Kirby is a friend of both Stacy and Susie in high school.
The three of us didn't hang out a whole lot together. It was more, I did a lot of stuff with Stacy, and I also did stuff with Susie.
The three teens have big plans for their summer.
We were ready for the water parks, the pools, shopping, and getting ready for college.
In the fall, Janelle and Stacy McCall will attend Missouri State University.
Stacy and I plan to go to college together and possibly join a sorority.
Susie tells her brother she would like to follow in her mother Cheryl's footsteps and become a hairstylist.
Mom and Susie were extremely close. They understood each other, they were bonded, they got each other. I believe Susie wanted to go into cosmetology because she looked up to my mom so much, and she wanted to be like my mother.
Kickapoo High School is planning an alcohol-free graduation party for the night of June 6th. It's called Project Graduation.
They had a pledge that they had to sign that they would come without any alcohol or anything else and would be there all night long, and they could not leave. They would be locked in.
But the girls decide not to sign up and make their own plans.
They wouldn't have been unlocked until about 8 o'clock the next morning, which would have changed things dramatically.
It's graduation day in Springfield, Missouri. The girls attend the ceremony at MSU campus.
Stacy and I went shopping the night before, bought all kinds of new clothes. You know, everybody was just really happy. Graduation was coming. We couldn't be happier.
And I was patting myself on the back because all my daughters had made it through graduation. We didn't have any catastrophes. All of them would be in college, so we were looking forward to that.
After the graduation, the three girls head out for family dinners and later meet up at Janelle's house for a party at her neighbor's.
There was a series of parties that the girls were to attend that evening, and then travel to Branson, Missouri, which is approximately 30 minutes from here.
The girls plan to sleep at a motel in Branson, close to Whitewater, an outdoor water park, where they will enjoy their first full day of summer vacation.
It's going to be a beautiful day to just hang out on our first day graduated.
Stacy's mother, Janice, is not happy about the girls' plan to sleep at a motel. Then, she hears from Stacy around 10 p.m. She's relieved to learn the girls have decided to stay at their friend Janelle's house instead.
We were having fun at the party. It was getting late. We just didn't want to leave the party and drive to Branson, so we just decided to go to the water park the next day.
Around the same time, Susie's mom, Cheryl, is home alone. As usual, she's busy working on a project in her house on Delmar Street.
Around 9:30 to 10 o'clock p.m., Cheryl Levitt was at home refinishing a piece of furniture that was in her bedroom and was planning to go to bed that evening.
After a long night of celebrating, the girls are ready to settle in for the night. But Janelle's house is packed with out-of-town relatives. They can't stay there after all.
My whole family lives in Kansas, and everybody came for my graduation.
So therefore, there was not a lot of room.
Their plans change again. Janelle stays at her own house, but Susie and Stacy decide to go to Susie's house on Delmar Street.
So they decided to leave and go to Susie's house and spend the night down there.
They leave in separate cars and agree to call Janelle in the morning when they wake up.
Looking back, I wish I'd begged them to stay and, you know, not let them leave, and we just would have all slept on the floor together.
It's a bright, sunny morning when Janelle wakes up, but she gets no phone call from her friends.
It was probably like 9 o'clock when I woke up. I hadn't heard from them, so I called. No one answered.
Janelle calls the house many times, trying to reach her friends Susie and Stacy, but no one answers.
Mike, my boyfriend, picked me up, and so we went to Susie's house. I had never been to the house before this. They had just moved there recently.
When Janelle and Mike arrive at the house on Delmar Street, it appears at first as though everyone is home.
When they arrived, Susie's vehicle was there, Stacy's vehicle was there, parked in the driveway, and Cheryl Levitt's car was in the carport area. So all three of the vehicles were at the residence.
They approach the house, but even before they knock, they see something out of the ordinary.
And when we got to the front porch, there was glass everywhere.
Janelle immediately notices that the globe covering the porch light at Susie's house is shattered, but the light bulb itself is intact. Nobody answers the door, but they think perhaps they are still sleeping. She and Mike grab a broom and sweep up the mess.
And so Mike just cleaned it up just to do a nice thing. We just went on in and was yelling for him, and no one answered.
Inside the house, everything appears normal at first. They peer into the rooms and see that Susie and her mother's beds look slept in.
In the bathroom, you could tell they took their makeup off. The jewelry was sitting there. The washcloths where they used to take their makeup off was sitting there.
It seems Susie and Stacy made it home from Janelle's house the previous night and got ready for bed.
There was basically no indication that there was anything out of the ordinary other than maybe they just weren't there at the time.
But as the minutes tick by in the empty house, Janelle can't help but sense that something just doesn't seem right. Cheryl's dog, a terrier named Cinnamon, is unusually anxious and barking.
Cinnamon was very excited. She was running around, and she wanted me to hold her, and like something was wrong.
The family dog was left unattended, which was not normal for this group.
And both Susie and her mother's cigarettes and lighters, items they rarely leave behind, are on the table.
My mom was a chain smoker. She went everywhere with her cigarettes. I mean, if she got out of bed and went into the living room to say something, she brought a cigarette with her.
Although Janelle and Mike are puzzled, they decide to leave. They have no idea where Cheryl is, but assume Susie and Stacy have gone to the water park without them.
Back then, we didn't have cell phones. There was no way to get a hold of anybody.
Just then, the phone at the Delmar house rings, and when Janelle Kirby answers, she is confronted by a strange and disturbing call. Coming up, could the call be linked to the 3 missing women?
It was a brief call, and the person didn't identify themselves.
When Janelle Kirby does not hear from her friends, Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall, on the morning of June 7th, 1992, she drives with her boyfriend to Susie's house, where the 2 girls slept. They discover that no one is home. Just before leaving the house, the phone rings.
Janelle Kirby was inside the residence and answered the telephone, hoping that it was someone giving information of Stacy and Susie being located.
But the call isn't helpful. Quite the opposite.
It was a brief call, and the person didn't identify themselves. It was a male voice that made sexual innuendos, and she hung up and immediately received a second call with also making sexual overtones.
Janelle hangs up, upset by the phone calls, which she thinks are probably a prank. She and Mike leave the house on Delmar Street, not sure if something is seriously wrong or if there's a logical explanation for their friend's absence. Meanwhile, Stacy's mother Janice and older sister Lisa are happily planning a trip to the local bridal shop to pick out Lisa's wedding dress. Janice tries to reach Stacy before heading out for the day. She calls Janelle Kirby's house, where, last she heard, her daughter was spending the night.
Janelle's sister answered the phone and she said she's not here. She said at the last minute, Stacy had decided to go and spend the night with Susie.
Janice is unhappy that Stacy didn't tell her about her change of plans, but there's nothing she can do for the moment. She doesn't have the new phone number for Susie's family's home on Delmar Street, so she goes to the bridal salon. She's irritated with her daughter, but believes she will see her later that day. It's now been 15 hours since anyone has seen or heard from Stacy McCall, Susie Streeter, or Susie's mom, Cheryl Levitt, but no one knows if they are actually missing. Stacy's mom, Janice, finally tracks down Susie's new phone number. When no one answers the phone, Janice drives over to Susie's house.
So I started opening the door and saying, hello, hello, anybody home?
Somewhat reluctantly, Janice decides to walk in and look around.
I felt like I really shouldn't be in here, but I've got to find out where Stacy is, and things are getting stranger by the minute.
Just like Janelle hours earlier, Janice notices some unusual things about the way the house was left. Her daughter's clothes from the previous night are neatly folded on the floor, but her t-shirt and underwear are missing.
I noticed that the TV was all fuzzy. Stacy's purse was sitting right next to Susie's purse, and right next to that on the floor was Susie's mom, Cheryl's purse. And I thought that was kind of strange. I think that's when I started feeling this is not right.
Janice is suddenly sick with worry. She calls the police to report Stacy missing.
And I was just really trying to hold it together. And they said, we are gonna file this as a missing persons report.
It's late, so the officer asks Janice to come to the station the next morning. He makes an unsettling suggestion.
And that was can you get their dental records? And for me, if they want dental records, they're thinking they might be dead. And I think it really hit me hard that there was something really bad going on. And I thought, I've got to start trying to find her now.
Janice gets pictures taken at graduation developed and sets out to do something unimaginable just 24 hours after the ceremony. She is creating a missing person poster for her daughter. With the help of the Springfield community, Janice distributes the posters statewide.
Hi, I'm Mrs. McCall, and this is my daughter. Okay. And they're missing, and we'd like to put posters in your windows, on your doors. Okay.
Soon, they appear across the country, dubbed by the media as the Springfield Three. By now, police have developed a timeline. Sometime between the hours of 2 a.m. when the teenagers left Janelle Kirby's house and 8 a.m. when people started calling Susie's house, something happened to the three women. To complicate things, well-meaning friends and family who went to the crime scene may have removed critical evidence.
I don't think they intentionally tried to contaminate the crime scene or anything, but there was quite a few items that were moved inside the residence before the police were called, mainly just searching for clues or where they may have gone.
During Janice's frantic search, she played Cheryl and Susie's answering machine, most likely erasing a message that may have contained a clue for investigators.
There was a particular phone call that was received that evening that the police were very interested in.
There was a kind of a strange message. It was a man, and I don't remember what the message was. And somehow it got deleted.
The investigators don't believe that this message had any connection to the prank phone calls received at the house by Janelle Kirby. But with the message erased, they will never know for sure. The community starts flooding the police with tips.
The amount of calls and the amount of tips that came in on this case was more than I'd ever seen in my entire career prior to, and really more than I've seen in my career since then.
In a strange coincidence, a neighbor of the McCalls reports a stolen vehicle the same night the three went missing. The owner of the car is a classmate of Susie and Stacy's.
We're requesting individuals to look for a burgundy 1987 Toyota Supra two-door.
At first, I think they were putting a connection on that, but it turned out that the car was stolen from our area and not by Susie's house.
When the car turns up, days later, police can find no connection to the women's disappearance. Then, a waitress at Cheryl and Susie's favorite restaurant tells police she saw the three women eating between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on the night they went missing.
It's a popular place. There was quite a few people there. Everybody that we could locate and identify as being there that evening were interviewed, and we could not corroborate that any of the three people were actually at the restaurant that evening.
More than 30 officers are assigned to the case. The FBI is called in, but the leads go nowhere.
And all the resources were pooled, and still it was overwhelming for the Springfield Police Department in this investigation. It became an animal of its own, and it was really consuming the whole entire city.
The city is gripped by fear, and the police are perplexed by the lack of evidence.
Now you have three females that have just basically vanished off the face of the earth without a trace.
Coming up, a shocking declaration during a police interrogation.
And when I heard that, a chill went up my spine.
If he was hoping they were dead, did he do it?
Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Stacy McCall have disappeared, seemingly without a trace. Police start gathering information on the three women. Nothing in any of their backgrounds suggests that they would simply run away, so they dig deeper. They start with Cheryl Levitt.
She worked and was a mother and did not have relationships at the time that would have been suspicious in nature.
Cheryl is a mother of two. Bart Streeter, her eldest, is 9 years older than Susie.
She was my baby sister, and I loved her. She just was sunshine.
But police learn that Bart's relationship with his mother is more complicated.
My mom said to me the same thing all parents say eventually, and that's if you want to live under my roof, you have to live by my rules. I didn't want to live by that rule, so I left.
At age 17, Bart moves out. But the tension with his mother continues for years. According to Bart, his mother struggles in her relationships with men who often have problems with alcohol. Bart says he falls into the same pattern of behavior.
She had family members who drank to excess, and she wanted me to quit, and I wasn't going to.
After 10 years of living on his own, Bart returns to Springfield in the fall of 1991.
I had a rough breakup with my girlfriend, and I needed a new start.
Bart and his little sister Susie decide to get an apartment together, which gives them a chance to get to know each other again. But Bart says his drinking gets in the way.
If I had not been drinking to excess, the relationship that I had with my mother and sister would have been completely different. I do regret the drinking at that time.
One night at Susie and Bart's place, things spiral out of control.
Susie came home late from the movie theater, and she told me to turn my music down. And I told her no, I wasn't going to turn my music down. It was Friday, and I was partying.
Bart Streeter and Susie had a physical altercation where she was arguing over him being under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time.
It got heated, and some stuff got thrown, and some stuff got broken, and we yelled and screamed and hollered at each other.
After the fight, Susie moves back in with her mother, Cheryl. They decide they have reached their limit with Bart's behavior and cut him out of their lives. Just 3 months later, before any chance of reconciliation, the two most important women in Bart's life are missing.
There was a message in my inbox to call the Springfield Police Department. They asked me if I had seen or heard from my mother and sister.
Streeter heads down to the station and quickly understands the situation is grave.
There's an initial shock that is overwhelming, and from there, it was just a nightmare.
The police immediately start looking at Bart Streeter as a suspect.
And looking into the background of the family and his family situation, there was things that piqued our interest as far as wanting to talk to him further about past disagreements with Susie and his mother.
Anybody that is close to the family, and especially men that are close to the family, brother, husband, boyfriend, you're initially considered a suspect.
Police question him to establish his whereabouts the night his mother and sister went missing. Streeter says he was drinking that evening and passed out on his couch. When police follow up on his story, both a neighbor and a girlfriend corroborate his alibi.
There was nothing I was not willing to tell them, and there was nothing that I didn't tell them.
He was cooperative, and he did talk to the police and did cooperate with interviews and showed a strong interest in the case from the beginning.
Bart Streeter passes a polygraph and is cleared as a suspect. He says he continues to be tormented by the disappearance of his mother and sister.
I believe that it actually broke me, that I would just sit and cry, and it hurts so bad that you are afraid you'll never be able to quit. But you don't know what to do.
Next, police turn their attention to Susie Streeter's past relationships.
Susie Streeter had questionable people in her background, and we definitely spent a lot of time investigating the individuals that she was close to.
They are particularly interested in Susie's ex-boyfriend, Dustin Rekla, a young man Susie broke up with just a few months prior to her disappearance. The couple split when Dustin was arrested for vandalism at a local cemetery. Police wonder if this crime could be linked to a motive in the disappearance. After driving around one night, Dustin and his friends vandalized a mausoleum, and the following morning, kids found skulls in a tree at a local park.
What we found interesting during this portion of the investigation is he was also dating Susie Streeter during this time frame.
Days later, a bizarre tip is called in to police. The tip refers to a deal brokered at a local pawn shop where some young men were selling gold teeth fillings.
At the time of the gold fillings, of course, we didn't know that it would tie back into the mausoleum.
Officers discovered that the gold fillings were removed from skulls taken by the mausoleum vandals.
The officer went to the pawn shop, and basically the pawn shop owner had taken the ID of the person pawning it, and it would check to a Mike Clay.
Michael Clay, a local teen, is apparently a close friend of Susie's ex-boyfriend, Dustin Rekla. When the officer visits the Clay residence to follow up, he observes some strange items in the house when Clay's sister answers the door. A poster with a large circle, candles, and an animal skull. Clay is not home at the time, but the unusual scene raises a lot of questions about the young man.
Which kind of led some to speculate that, there had been some type of maybe a ritual or some type of a cult-type activity had taken place. You're talking about Springfield, Missouri, where it's the heart of the Bible Belt, more or less. And when you start talking about ritualistic activity or some type of satanic activity, no one really wanted to talk about that. And even the police didn't want to talk about it.
When the officer returns to Clay's house the next day to question him, all of the suspicious paraphernalia is gone. Both Dustin Reckla and Michael Clay are brought to the police station for questioning about the vandalism. Susie Streeter provides police with a statement on her knowledge of the incident. It is testimony that is used to charge the two boys and will be presented in court in September of that year.
She was cooperative with the police investigation and provided us with a written statement. She wasn't even aware of what they were going to do until after it had been done.
Now, 4 months later, Susie, along with her friend Stacy and her mom, are missing. A week into the investigation, police call Clay and Reckla back to the station to find out if there's a connection between Susie's statement on the vandalism and her disappearance. A news crew in Springfield reports to the community that Michael Clay makes some incriminating statements during his interrogation.
And he stated he wished those bitches were dead. And when I heard that, a chill went up my spine.
If he was hoping they were dead, did he do it?
Why on earth would this young man want them dead? And then for them to be missing, it's never made any sense.
He explained later in future interviews of why he made the statement, and he blamed having a disagreement or a personality conflict with the investigator that was questioning during this case.
Both Dustin Reckla and Michael Clay deny having anything to do with the disappearance of the three women. The night Susie, Cheryl, and Stacy disappeared, Dustin Reckla says he was at a local band's rock concert and after party.
It's not a definite airtight alibi. Michael Clay had a similar alibi that it couldn't be confirmed or denied for that evening.
But almost 3 weeks after the boys plead not guilty in court to institutional vandalism, the women are still missing.
At first, I really thought that maybe Michael and some of that group had gotten really angry at Susie and that maybe they held them somewhere and had them until after the court date. And I thought, well, maybe they'll let them go then.
Eventually, the boys changed their plea to guilty and are placed on probation. Police say both Michael Clay and Dustin Reckla have cooperated throughout the investigation, but neither can be ruled out as persons of interest. Coming up, a tip from 800 miles away brings to light a new suspect with a violent history.
He is almost as bad a nightmare as their disappearance.
It's early July 1992, and the three women from Springfield, Missouri have been missing for 4 weeks. Family members and police are at a loss until a new and frightening piece of information surfaces about the morning of June 6th, the day of their disappearance.
The person reported she was on her front porch at 6:30 to 7 o'clock a.m. on Sunday and observed a van turning around. She thought it was Susie Streeter that was driving the van.
It's a disturbing story. Even though the sighting takes place in a neighborhood over a mile east of the house on Delmar Street, police believe it's a solid lead.
I think very likely Susie was the driver and gone the wrong way from her house, and you can't get to the freeway off that street. She said that she looked like she had been crying a lot, and that she pulled up in the driveway and she heard a man's voice in the back saying, "Don't do anything stupid, just back out, turn around and get us out of here."
The witness says she did not come forward earlier because she hadn't yet seen the missing persons poster. Once she did, she recognized Susie Streeter as the driver of the van. The witness describes the van in detail to police, and an official search gets underway.
The vehicle is identified as a 1964 to 1970 Dodge panel van.
The actual witness that reported it described it as a silver to green. She even described it as celery-colored van.
Police buy the same model van, painted green, and park it outside the police station with a sign asking people to contact them with any information. Soon, the calls start flooding in.
The paper boy thought he had seen a brown van in the neighborhood, but it was still dark, and he said he really couldn't tell. So they were looking for brown vans for a while.
The van in this case has been reported by numerous witnesses as various colors from brown to green to silver to white. It's been pretty much every color there is.
Police search thousands of vans. They find nothing linked to the 3 missing women. But police maintain that the sighting should not be discounted.
It's like most sightings that you have. It's hard to corroborate or fully confirm that that information is correct. However, we give a lot of credibility to the tip.
All 3 of these.
Janice McCall continues pushing the story in the news, hoping to spark more leads. And after a Florida family sees the 3 missing women's story on TV, it appears her plan has worked.
We had a tip on this case from Florida.
The tip steers police toward a new suspect named Robert Craig Cox.
Robert Cox is a very interesting individual that has a very lengthy criminal history.
The person with the tip believes Cox is connected to the disappearance of the Springfield 3. The caller is the brother of a woman named Sharon Zellers, a 19-year-old who in 1978 was the victim of a gruesome crime.
Sharon Zellers was a young woman, and she worked and had gotten off late. Sharon was abducted and murdered.
At the time of Sharon's murder, Robert Craig Cox had just graduated basic training as an Army Ranger. To celebrate, he took a trip to Florida with his family. Late one night, his mother had to rush him to the hospital when he returned to their motel room covered in blood.
He received injuries that evening, the night of the murder, where he had a portion of his tongue bitten off.
He told investigators he bit his tongue off.
The nurse said he couldn't have bit his own tongue off because it was bit from someone the other direction.
Eventually, Sharon Zellers' body was found just a few hundred feet from Cox's motel room in a nearby sewage facility. Cox was questioned by police, but in the late 70s, DNA evidence wasn't advanced enough to be conclusive, so Cox was not charged. Instead, he traveled to California with the Army, where he was convicted of abducting and assaulting 2 women in 2 separate incidents. He is taken into police custody in 1985.
While he's in custody in California, they decide to indict him for Sharon Zellers' murder in Florida. They extradite him down. He has a jury trial. He's found guilty and placed on death row.
And his sentence was overturned by the Florida Supreme Court because they said they didn't have enough evidence on him.
Many of the jurors have been interviewed since then and are all convinced that he is responsible for the murder.
Cox was then extradited back to California to finish serving his sentence for the 2 abductions. But in 1992, Robert Craig Cox is paroled. He goes back to his hometown where his parents still live, Springfield, Missouri. Lacking sophisticated technology, it's difficult for local police departments to keep track of convicted criminals in their area.
There wasn't a big list like we have nowadays that people can check on.
So the Zellers family keeps tabs themselves on the man they believe is responsible for Sharon's murder. When they discover that Cox was in the area when the 3 women went missing, they tip off the Springfield Police Department. The police begin to zero in on Robert Craig Cox. Cox works as an underground utilities worker, a job which some speculate could be a good con for getting into a stranger's home at 2 a.m.
What better ruse in the middle of a night to knock on somebody's door and say, you got a gas problem? You know, he's got the uniform, the truck.
But his previous profession intrigues investigators even more. Cox was a mechanic at a used car lot where Stacy McCall's father was also employed as a salesman.
We have confirmed that they both worked there at the time.
My girls were very good and missed their daddy, and they would go up and take us dinner many times. You know, they thought, well, maybe he saw Stacy and was going after her.
Could Cox have seen Stacy McCall visiting her dad at work and targeted her?
Stacy was the type of young woman that when you saw her, she'd be striking and people would turn to look, you know, because she would make people's head turn.
But investigators think the likelihood of a planned abduction is slight, since Stacy and Susie made a last-minute decision to sleep at the house on Delmar Street.
On the night of the disappearance, Robert Cox indicated that he attended a golf tournament and spent the night at his parents' residence that evening, and then took his girlfriend and her child to church the following morning. We interviewed the girlfriend, and she also indicated that he took her and her child to church the next morning, which would have been Sunday.
With Cox's alibi corroborated, police are once again facing a dead end. Still, police do not rule out Cox as a person of interest in this case.
I can't think of another case that would come close to this level in the last 20 years that I've worked here. It is very uncommon to have 3 adult females just totally disappear from a residence.
Coming up, shocking rumors about the 3 missing women are taken more seriously.
Let's find out what's underneath that concrete. I want my family found.
3 years have passed since the 3 women from Springfield have gone missing, and the police are no closer to answers than they were at the onset of this investigation. In March 1995, a fateful event brings investigators back to a person of interest in the case. Robert Craig Cox, who has since moved to Texas, is arrested for aggravated robbery. When police in Springfield hear about it, they decide to revisit Cox's alibi in the case of the Springfield 3. When they re-interview his former girlfriend, she provides a story very different from her original statement.
During this interview, she recanted her previous statement, saying that she had talked to Robert Cox just prior to our interview and that she had indicated she was with him at church when she really wasn't.
Robert Craig Cox could charm anyone, and apparently he had told her that if the police came out, she was to say that.
Basically said she provided the initial story because she felt that he may have been involved in some other crimes. However, she was unaware of the 3 missing women case or that he was a suspect.
Now, without a solid alibi for the morning of June 7th, 1992, Robert Craig Cox jumps to the top of a short list of suspects in the case of the Springfield 3.
He is almost as bad a nightmare as their disappearance.
Springfield police travel to Texas to interview Cox, who is serving a life sentence. But it takes more than one visit to crack him.
We made 3 separate trips to Texas to interview him in the Department of Corrections.
Each time, Cox denies any involvement with the 3 missing women and frustrates the police with cagey answers.
He's toyed with the Springfield Police Department and with a lot of us in the media. I think he gets off on toying with all of us.
Cox tells police just enough to intrigue them about his knowledge of the case, but not enough to incriminate himself. About a year later, still incarcerated in Texas, Cox gives an interview about the 3 missing women to a Springfield TV reporter.
I know that they're dead. I'll say that. I know that.
That's not a theory.
Yeah, but I know that I just know that they're dead. I believe that a person who did this had experience, knew what they were doing. I believe that the 3 missing women are buried close to Springfield.
It could either be a combination of just wanting attention, or it could be that he actually has some involvement in it. But he obviously enjoys the fact that people were contacting him and spending time looking into him as a possible suspect.
Kathy Baird, a crime reporter for the Ozark Sentinel, becomes fascinated with the 3 missing women when she moves to Springfield in 2000. She's convinced the case can be cracked.
I said, there's got to be something somewhere. Somebody knows something. And I picked the case up and started working it.
Baird makes a lot of contacts in the community and starts receiving tips of her own. Most assume the women have been murdered and name possible locations of the bodies. Police are skeptical about some of the information.
We have a lot of rumors about possible locations of where the 3 missing women have been buried or their remains are located. Most of it is psychic information that was provided in a dream or a vision from an individual.
But Kathy Baird believes one of the sites is mentioned by too many sources, too many times to be a coincidence: the South parking garage at Cox Hospital. While Cox Hospital and Robert Craig Cox have no connection, it's another bizarre twist in a convoluted case. In 2007, 15 years after Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy go missing, Kathy asks a mechanical engineer named Rick Norland to to come to Springfield, Missouri.
She explained that she was investigating the disappearance of some women. She didn't tell me how many.
Norland, who was called to Ground Zero after 9/11 to help dig out debris, is an expert in ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, which produces underground images.
You're able to visualize what's below the surface or hidden.
GPR can detect buried objects, changes in the ground's material, and cracks or voids in the soil. But the image GPR projects is not as clear as an actual photograph.
So you get an image that you have to interpret. It's going to give you a black and white image, and a lot of times it looks like a bunch of squiggly lines, so somebody doesn't know what they're looking at.
Kathy and Norland scan one corner of Cox Hospital's south parking garage. The resulting images reveal more than anyone expects.
And when I got done marking out these perimeters and stood back, there's 3 anomalies, roughly about the same size. 2 were parallel and 1 was kind of perpendicular to the other 2. They were relatively shallow. Radar can't tell that there's a body down there, but this anomaly is very consistent with what we would see in a gravesite location.
The only way to confirm if there are bodies buried in this location is to dig for them. But the Springfield Police Department isn't convinced the GPR results are conclusive enough to justify tearing up the concrete.
He has credible resources and credible references for his work. Anomaly is a lot different than saying there's 3 missing people buried below the concrete.
Still, regardless of the faith police have in GPR science, there's another problem.
The parking garage was built a year after the disappearance of the 3 missing women. It's, it's well after the fact.
People will tell you that, oh, it couldn't be the site because it was still under construction. Yeah, exactly. If it had been completed, there'd be nothing to it. But it wasn't.
Let's find out what's underneath that concrete. I want my family found.
I am willing to be wrong. Prove me wrong.
In December 2010, 3 years after Rick Norland scans the parking garage, police are reconsidering their position.
Chief Williams says that he plans to get all parties involved, the hospital, former and current law enforcement who worked on the case, also the prosecutor's office, get everyone together in the next 2 weeks to try to move forward on this case.
If there was a way to basically put those rumors to rest, then we would look at that.
We're still open-minded, and we still look into every tip and lead, and we will continue on this one.
If they find remains there, then we're going to have to deal with it.
In nearly 19 years since the women disappeared, investigators have logged over 5,000 tips, followed leads in 21 states, and searched the woods throughout the Ozarks to no avail. For the families of the missing women, the lack of closure makes their loss even harder to bear. Janice McCall frequently visits a memorial for the 3 women to keep her hope alive.
I take the attitude that my daughter is still alive because they have not found her and they have not found any remains.
It's especially painful for Bart Streeter, who never got the chance to reconcile with his mother and sister.
Now, I've always believed that we would have worked it out, but we never saw each other again.
When Stacy first disappeared, I expected her back that day, and then a week, then a month, and then a year. And I just recently realized that she's been gone longer than I had her. And for her to be gone more than 18 years is heartbreaking. It's so sad.
People have asked me before what I want. I want vengeance. I love my mother and sister. But I'll settle for justice.
If there's 1/10, 1/100th of 1% of a chance that I can find her, I want that. I want to find her. I want her to know how very much she means to us.